say ababa wa bi ni abrante bi o makohye so ana so makoda ewo Lake Bosumtwi a ewo Kumasi won say Kumasi de ye ka Lake Bosumtwi ana sa abono a eye Kumasi fo nsu kase ye pa o se Kumasi de eponi ho nti Kumasi epo da ho eye Lake Bosumtwi wo de amanfo de twetwe pa is amanfo timi fra bochi abehwehwe ho no na sentem ya ina video bi ba abontin say abrante bi ene ababa wa bi omo de omo coin no omo akwahye so won suri mu na nsu no bosom no ama omo adena kanti omo wie na se omo yi like beman ho bae no ba so bae na se omo twetwe omo na omo video omo na so omo tuyi omo ise mutu adena ko kanhye ama ise omo ho achompa asemi bae Kasatintin TV yeni amafo bredi nkomo ya dose asemi nsuko ya hwe ampa abrante na baba wa no omo ko no ko dwa mu nso ampa ama ekem na kemu no penifo ana se ohene okromo no ebe mu ama obehwe se ade a ono so atete no yampa ana se yampa de ko ba ni se ana se per investigation no ko ba ni se abrante na baba we no omo ene omo doso no omo call the so omo ko hwehwe ho no wo se ho tourist site so bi etimi call ko gina ni omo ko no mo hwese the environment ni so tie na ho fe na omo se ti na ha fe die ene nso no mo nso no ye bibi mo ebe ye de na ono ebe yi to hwe video no so a oba no ne be ma no oba na she blue no na be ma no so no ene na mo ho no mo na omo de nso mu a na kuku se no mo akono aba na be ma itwe oba yi so twen be me na me muao oba yi mu oba me na be ma so mu ano so na sena songon yes honorable member songon no afani ji aba speaker be me si otu afiri oba no say won so approve yintu fimu a adina akemu be me tete mu a ye hwe video na page 9 on page 9
the statement the speaker made by the honorable majority made by the honorable minority the honorable two forces was respect of the fact that four members of parliament, the fact that four members of parliament house names have been listed, Article 97(1)(g) and H. Article 97(1)(g). It was not a mere allegation. It was not a mere allegation. So the appearance of who were alleged, to have been, it does not reflect the true statement made by the member. Because it was based on the statement that the speaker proceeded to make, to give information that you gave to the House. The speaker further, in indicating the names of the honorable members so named, their current situations and circumstances were clearly stated in the motion paper. So that, for instance, the first name, Peter Yaokwachi Aka, the NDC member for Amenfi Central, and now an independent candidate. Mr. Speaker, so the statement contained these clear facts, and therefore it's important that they reflect in the proceedings as captured for purposes of correction. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, honorable member for Medina.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I also want to draw your attention to the same item, the paragraph 5, the ending statement, which is majority caucus in inverted commas. Mr. Speaker, I think the true intention will be reflected there when we say that the minority caucus staged a walkout instead of a majority caucus in inverted commas. So if the correction can be made to reflect what was there. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member Bolsa Saf. Is that okay? Yes. From the distance, I can't see. Honorable Member you are all right? Thank you, thank you. Table office, kindly take note of the comments made by the members. Please cross-check from the records and capture what is on the record of the House. Please, page 10. Page 11. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the third sitting, dated Thursday, 17th October 2024, are adopted as the true record of proceedings. Honorable members, I don't have a copy of any of the official reports. So we'll proceed now to item 5, formal communication by the Speaker. Honorable members, as you may recall, on Thursday, I informed the House, pursuant to Standing Order 18 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, on the occurrence of vacancies in the House in relation to 4 honorable members. Yesterday, I received a process from the Supreme Court, which is a ruling from the Supreme Court pursuant to an ex parte application directing Parliament to recognize and allow the 4 affected members of Parliament to duly represent their constituents and conduct full scope of duties of their offices as members of Parliament pending the final determination of a suit filed by Honorable Alexander Afenyo Markin. By Article 102 of the Constitution, 1992, and Order 64.1 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, I note that we currently have a quorum to transact business, but not to take decisions. I want to read the said Article 102 of the Constitution. It reads, a quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. As presently constituted, the numbers definitely is far above 1/3 of the members of Parliament. But by Article 104, the numbers are not sufficient for us to take decisions. And I'll quote Article 104. Article 104.1 says, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, Matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Honorable members, we don't have at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Consequently, in view of the current circumstances, the fact that there is a question on the composition and constitution of Parliament, and having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in Parliament, I will proceed to, in accordance with Standing Orders 59, adjourn the House indefinitely. That is sine die. I want to quote Standing Orders 59:1. It says, the Speaker may, in consultation with leadership, suspend a meeting of the House indefinitely or for a period determined by the Speaker, having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in the country. Honorable members, I have consulted leadership, and I am exercising my discretion to decide to suspend the meeting of the House indefinitely. The House is accordingly adjourned sine die.
Instead of the 137. So the composition of Parliament presently, barring if we were to remove all 4 seats, so take four seats out of 275, what would be left?
4 seats out of 275.
Yeah.
Or 271.
Yeah, 271. So for Parliament to be deemed to be taking a valid decision, you need at least half of 271 MPs present. Now let's do the math.
That comes up to 271 divided by 2.
271
Mental.
divided by 2. I'm now seeing we get down. I'm punching the numbers. You get 135.5. Now you don't have a 0.5 of a human being.
Yeah.
So you round up to the nearest whole number. So when you round up, and because it is 5, you have 136.
Yeah.
So for a decision to be made by Parliament, which decision will be deemed to be valid to the extent of having the force of law, except in clear areas of the Constitution where it says that you need 2/3 or 3/3 majority, you need 136 members of Parliament present. As I said on radio this morning, the NDC MPs presently, if we take that, we knock off one member of Parliament, they will come down to 136.
Yeah.
But I do know on authority that a number of them are either receiving, let me put it this way, a number of them are not available to take part in parliamentary proceedings.
So they don't have that 136.
Exactly. So you don't have the 136. So while in line with the Constitution Article 104 and then Justice Abdullah's case, the court said expressly what the Speaker is putting in effect what the court said. Under Article 104, you can transact business, like, which is what? Communications from the Speaker, prayers, those things. You can do those things. But you cannot pass a law
with that number.
With that number. Because for you to pass a law which is not encumbered by any other constitutional provision, you need at least half of all members of Parliament. So it will not be 275. It will now be the House as presently constituted. Because the framers of the Constitution contemplated that there will come a time where vacancies will occur. And in the Constitution, they said expressly that despite those vacancies, once the House is properly constituted, it can take decisions. But for you to take a decision, you need at least half of all members of Parliament present. Which decisions will be valid in the eyes of the law, unless the Constitution itself says that as for this matter, so for instance, the removal of the Speaker, you need three-thirds majority of the people voting, and in some cases, two-thirds majority to take part in some other decision. So while people can sit today and say, oh, we are the majority, the question is to what effect? So the Speaker says that, yes, I note what the Supreme Court has said, but in the chamber right now, looking at the state of the House, I see less than 100 and what number did I mention?
136.
Yes, I see less than 136, and therefore, properly speaking, we cannot take a decision. So if Parliament can't take a decision, then what's the point going to sit there? So the Speaker says that, okay, in the circumstances and considering the state of affairs, blah, 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 he was adjourning the House in immediate. Now, truly, the Speaker is empowered by the standing orders and the Constitution to do that. If you, let me read.
So that won't have another time somebody going to say that.
So that the House will go.
No, so the question, let me read the standing orders. We'll come to that. The standing order he quoted is suspension of meeting, 59. The Speaker may, one says, the Speaker may, in consultation with leadership. So, may, in consultation with leadership. May, in consultation with leadership. So, underline, may and in consultation of leadership, suspend a meeting of the House in.
And this is why he said that. He said sitting in either side of the House is a gain of numbers. And our brothers on the other side said, if the Speaker doesn't tell the current majority to move to the other side, they will not sit in the House. They will not sit on the floor. They will prefer to go and sit in their offices and listen to the Speaker's communique. And that is why they also walk out. This is what prevailed yesterday.
Okay. Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, we'll see you later today on PM Express as usual, and then we'll have a conversation. So that is Ahmed Ibrahim giving us an indication of what might have happened in the Speaker's conclave. Honorable Kwabena Donkor is a very senior member of Parliament. Honorable Kwabena Donkor, you are at the end of your career in Parliament, and all these things are happening. Did you foresee that this was going to happen, and this later decision taken by the Speaker?
Yes, I foresaw it. Remember, the 8th Parliament was bathed in confusion because of the tightness of the numbers, 137 with one independent member. And therefore, immediately the Electoral Commission called for filing. I foresaw this situation. Parliament acts on precedent. The precedent said by the 7th Parliament was that immediately you file on the tickets of another party or as an independent member, you immediately forgo your seat. We had it, and so when we started the filing process, we knew this was going to come. What surprises me most is the haste with which the Supreme Court took. The filing by the former majority leader, and in less than 24 hours of filing, the Supreme Court had met and taken a decision. And especially on ex-parte would normally come on notice. So when the Supreme Court takes a political decision, it creates this sort of situation. With the tightness of numbers, this was bound to happen once candidates had filed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. So the latest situation now, almost all the MPs walking out of the makeshift chamber of Parliament here at the conference center and going back to the Job 600 where their offices are. Of course, the big news now is that the Speaker of Parliament has adjourned Parliament indefinitely. That means that between now and when they're able to reach an agreement and come back, some key government businesses are just not going to go ahead. And in particular, one that is of concern to a lot of people is the vote on accounts. That is the first quarter budget of next year. Because it's an election year, you don't present a full budget. That first quarter budget is also in limbo now until they agree. I spoke with the NDC caucus leader, Dr. Kasatintin, who says, well, the House can come back in December and come and take it briefly and then go back on their break. These are really unprecedented times. The Speaker of Parliament really shocking many people with this new decision that he has taken not to actually, as it were, take any decision. He also did not announce. The only thing he did, I should say, was to announce that he had indeed been served with the documents by the Supreme Court that ruled that his decision on the 4 MPs have been stayed. That clearly means that the Speaker of Parliament acknowledges that, and so his decision has now been stayed. But because of the political stalemate that is potentially going to be caused without a resolution on both sides taking that entrenched position, the Speaker of Parliament really saying that he has been left with no other choice but to indefinitely suspend Parliament. And so there's no end in sight. Parliament is not going to sit for many, many more weeks to come up until we get a clear communication from the Speaker of Parliament that he is now going to recall Parliament. So Faustina Evans and the team back in studio, the Speaker of Parliament has done what many did not expect him to do. He has suspended Parliament indefinitely, with both sides still insisting they are the majority. But obviously, having now acknowledged that ruling by the Supreme Court, one will be safe to say that the NPP have gone back into their majority status. But the House is now suspended indefinitely, and we do not know when the House will resume.
Thank you, Kweku Asante. We're back here in the studio, and we have on our phone lines Dr. Rashid Rahman. He's Executive Director of Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He joins us live with just brief reactions of this. The Speaker has adjourned the House indefinitely. He cites Article 102 of the Constitution. He says they have enough numbers to transact business because they have quorum. But unfortunately, they cannot take decisions. What's your thoughts about how things played out in Parliament today?
I think that is what some of us expected. I think this morning I did speak on your program, and Benjamin asked if I was to advise the Speaker, what would I say? And I said I would advise the Speaker to go into the House and read this one paragraph statement. Say based on all the things that are happening, there is no clarity. Of course, the Speaker did not say that. I think he relied on clear constitutional provisions, and for the avoidance of any doubt, he read those out just so that nobody runs to the court again to accuse him of doing something that was unconstitutional. And then he came to the conclusion. Of course, he cited the mood of the nation, the public interest nature of this, and I thought that was a classic kind of statesman approach to dealing with this matter. So we are back to it. Maybe by the time Parliament resumes, tempest would have calmed down. Our elders, if we have any left in this country, would have done what they should have done before now. And then maybe some conversation among the three branches of government, which I still think is necessary.
Rashid, let me come in at this point, because the Speaker agreed with Francis Xavier Soso on the floor that they should correct the records to reflect that on Thursday, when the NPP group walked out, they were the minority. That the Speaker today did not actually speak on the substantive issue as to who is majority or who is minority. In fact, he doesn't say anything about the NDC group sitting in the majority seat in Parliament. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I think, honestly, the Speaker just avoided anything that could be misinterpreted and could plunge our country into serious difficulties. All they did was they corrected the votes and proceedings. Any errors based on what transpired in the House, he told the table office to take note of that. He steered clear from going back to the issue that is in contention. And my reading of it is, I understand he met the Peace Council, he met Council of State, and so on and so forth. Perhaps maybe that was what was agreed. At the end of the day, the interest of the nation, our nation, I think, is more important than the interest of the NDC or the MPP. So I think he had the interest of the nation and left the NDC and the MPP to deal with their egos in terms of who is majority and who is minority.
Dr. Rashid Rahman, he's Executive Director for Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you for your time here on the Joy News channel. Let me come into the studio, coming to you, Winston Amwa.
Yes, so I was making the point that the Speaker didn't tell us how many MPs were actually there. And so we don't know, for instance.
Well, I'm sure the work on the sounds, I apologize there for the sound you're hearing, our audience on all our platforms. The work on that and take that off. Winston, you were just giving us...
Yes, so I'm saying that what the Speaker did not tell us, when he says, for instance, that we don't have the numbers to take a decision, he didn't tell us how many members were there.
Okay.
So if the Speaker had said, for instance, because of my earlier ruling, we need this number of members of Parliament, and we don't have them, so I'm saying that this is it. But this is the other point. We also do not know. So the NPP members who went into Parliament initially, when they went into Parliament, did they sign, for instance, they had come into Parliament? Mind you, when the minority, the speakers had earlier said in 2022, Raymond and Evans, you remember, during the passage of the e-levy, he said that if you come to Parliament and you step out, it doesn't mean that there is no quorum to take a decision. And so, when it got to the passage of the e-levy, there were 137 members of Parliament. Technically speaking, because there were 275 members of Parliament, you needed how many members of Parliament? You needed 138, but that was not the point. But that in itself is at variance with the Speaker's earlier rulings. But this is it for me. The Speaker has been very clever. The admission that he has been served would get the NPP to feel, okay, it means we're the majority. He doesn't put a number to it.
But his failure to also ensure that the minority, which is the NDC as at that time, leaves the majority seat is also...
Well, so he also says, table office, look at it and find out, listen to the speaker carefully, and find out the true events and act accordingly. So the table office would check, compare to everything he said, and act accordingly. As it stands now, you can go argue amongst yourselves, but at least for now, there would be some calm. Yes, there'll be some calm. The conversation then would arise. So what happens to government business? What happens to the appropriation in advance and all of that? Well, that's something you can come back and have it passed. But as it stands now, if there's a serious need for government business, I'm sure that they can engage, people can call Parliament back, they can write to the Speaker. If as at that time there's been a resolution of this issue, because the Speaker says he has been served. The Supreme Court, we heard, directed that they should all file their responses to this
7 days.
In 7 days. Let's see how it goes.
The Speaker agrees he has been served, but his lawyers have also triggered another suit.
There are a few additional angles to this. First, the most contentious subject is whether he's vacated the seats or not, for me.
He didn't pronounce on
that. He didn't pronounce on that. But there is an answer implied in the way he approached this. Because it is my view that Article 108, 104 that he quoted.
102, actually.
104 that he quoted, that talks about, I mean, he quoted that too, but precisely 104.
Okay.
That talks about to take decisions in Parliament, you need at least half of all MPs to get a decision, right? I mean, the majority of all members present and voting, but also half of all members of Parliament. That second part is what I'm focusing on. If he quotes that, if you use that, it is my contention that if he's vacated the seats and is going by that original decision, that reduces the number of MPs to 271.
Yes.
And not 275. If you do the maths of that, at least half of all MPs should bring you to 135.5.
136.
136, of course. If you do 136, then you have the NDC side should have that number. I say should. Whether or not they actually brought all of those numbers to the floor today is a different question, but should have that. If they had that, they can take decisions. Remember, even the first part, which is the 92 you need for quorum, they can do government business. Sorry, they can do business in Parliament. Doing business doesn't mean you're taking decision. So Parliament could have gone ahead today.
Yeah, and he said they could conduct business, but they couldn't take decisions.
No, of course, that's my point. It's not every day that you take decisions. You can go through.
But the purpose of conducting business is to take decisions.
They do the debate and leave the decision making subsequently. So that's something Parliament does.
So you can.
So they can take.
You can actually go ahead and do parliamentary business today because you have a quorum. And in fact, even if you don't have a quorum, somebody must raise that. There are times that they don't have a quorum and they proceed and do business because nobody raised it.
Presumption of
regularity. Even sometimes the speaker ignores those who are about to raise quorum issues.
Yes.
He knows
there's presumption of regularity unless you raise it. So they could have gone ahead. But he chooses not to. And so for me, I say there's a suggestion there. Definitely he's toned down the stance. And we made the point before that he's been consistent, very hard line, on when the courts attempt, in his view, to interfere in the